Hi everyone, welcome back to Wine Why with McKay. I'm continuing the series on vitamins, and today I want to talk about a vitamin that's got quite a lot of focus during the pandemic, and a vitamin that's also known as the sunshine vitamin. Let's talk about you and your vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important in lots of different functions in our bodies. The two main things that we know that vitamin D plays a big role in is with calcium. So calcium is an ion that's important for so many different functions in our bodies, and we take our calcium up through our diet, and it's stored mainly in our bones. Vitamin D helps calcium become absorbed through our intestines. So if we don't have enough vitamin D, we're not able to absorb all that calcium. And if we're not having this calcium, we're not storing it in our bones. That means our bones are not as strong as they should be. Calcium is also the reason why we're able to move and contract all our muscles. So again, if we're not having enough calcium, our muscles are not able to move and contract as they should be. So another thing that vitamin D is very important for is for our immune system. So vitamin D is known to decrease inflammation and any damage that inflammation can cause. It's also known to decrease the amount of infections that we get. It's also been shown to play different roles in our mood, our emotions, our digestive systems, and lots of different parts of our body. So vitamin D is very, very important for our health. So where do we get our vitamin D from? Vitamin D is considered to be more of a hormone than a vitamin. Most of the other vitamins are needed for lots of different functions, but we don't make it ourselves. That's why we have to take it in from our diet. Vitamin D is a little bit different in that most of our vitamin D, we make it ourselves. It's in our skin. So we have all this vitamin D in our skin, but the problem is it's not activated. So this inactive vitamin D in our skin is known as 7-dehydrocholesterol. So this is in our skin ready to become activated and do its job in our bodies. For it to become activated, we need the sun. Specifically, we need the UV light from the sun, and more specifically, we need UVB light from the sun to activate this 7-dehydrocholesterol. And now that's known as cholecalciferol. Now it's ready to go to the liver. The liver does a bunch of chemical reactions, and now it's known as 2,5-hydroxycalciferol. So now that's ready and it goes off to the kidney. The kidney does a bunch of other reactions, and now that's known as 225. That's not what it's called. 2,5-hydroxycalciferol. 1,2,5-dehydroxycholecalciferol. All these are different names for the different stages of activating vitamin D. So you don't really need to know all these names because I don't. So now this active vitamin D can go off to the intestines, to the muscles, to the bones, and do all the job that it's supposed to do. Another way of getting vitamin D into your body is through your diet. There is vitamin D rich foods that you can take, and once you take that in, it goes straight to the liver and it goes through the same process to become activated. So now we have a general idea on how we get active vitamin D in our bodies. How can a deficiency happen? So we can start off with the sun. So if you're not outside or getting in the sun, you're not activating this vitamin D. So this is for people who spend a lot of times indoor, and this is a modern lifestyle issue as well, because we mostly live and work and spend most of our time indoor. We don't get to go outside and soak up the UV light. And the next is skin. The type of skin you have has a big impact in how much vitamin D you produce. This is because melanin, what gives the pigment in our skin, is a natural SPF, a sun protective factor. This means it protects us from UV light, and the UV doesn't get absorbed into our skin, protecting us from some of the damaging effects that this can have. But what this means is that we don't end up activating as much vitamin D as we would compared to someone who has less melanin in their skin. So the more melanin you have in the skin, the more resistance you have to UV light, and the less you're able to make this vitamin D. Next is your diet. So if your diet is not including vitamin D rich foods, you're not putting any vitamin D in your body. So logically, you're more likely to become vitamin D deficient. The next is your liver and your kidney. Because they're part of the process in activating vitamin D, people who have chronic liver or kidney problems are more likely to become vitamin D deficient because they're not able to do their job as well as it should. And this is also seen as you age. Your kidneys don't function the way they did before, so that means the amount of vitamin D you're producing is not as much as it was before. So all of these decrease the amount of vitamin D you have in your body, and you end up with a vitamin D deficiency. But what does this actually look like? So since vitamin D is involved with how much calcium you take up into your body, a vitamin D deficiency means you're not taking up that much calcium. And when this happens when you're younger, you have something that's known as rickets. So the bones are not growing as strong as they should be, and they end up bending and not growing the way they're supposed to be. When this happens when you're older, you get a condition known as osteoporosis. So your bones are brittle and they're more likely to break or to fracture. And when it comes to your immune system, a vitamin D deficiency means your immune system is not as strong as it should be, so you're more likely to get infections. And because vitamin D is known to decrease inflammation, less vitamin D means you have higher risk of getting certain inflammatory diseases. People with vitamin D deficiency report having muscle pains and feeling weak, and this might be associated with the decrease in calcium because calcium is needed to keep your muscles strong and contracting. And vitamin D deficiency has been associated with certain mood disorders, specifically depression, and also fatigue or just chronic lack of energy. It's also been associated with certain disorders to do with your digestive system. So it's very clear that vitamin D plays a vital role in our general health. So how do we make sure that we're keeping up with our vitamin D levels and we're staying healthy? If it's possible, it's recommended to go get a blood test and check your vitamin D levels. This will let you know if you have any deficiency and what you need to focus on to make sure you're staying at the right level. And because vitamin D activation depends on your skin color and your activities indoors and outdoors, there are people who are more high risk of being vitamin D deficient. This includes people with darker skin. And this has been shown in plenty of studies. A study done in the US showed that African Americans are more likely to be vitamin D deficient or have lower levels of vitamin D throughout the year when compared to white Americans. So it's recommended for people with darker skin to make sure they're active in taking vitamin D, whether it's through their food or through supplements, to make sure that we're keeping up with our vitamin D levels. And for everyone, since the sun is what activates our vitamin D, we need to get outside. So it's recommended for people to get outside and get under the sun for minimum 15 minutes. So as I said before, this depends on your skin color. So the lighter you are, the less time you need to spend in the sun. But this changes throughout the seasons. During summertime, during the midday hours, that sun is enough to activate and give us our daily dose of vitamin D. During wintertime, it's not enough to give us the amount of vitamin D we need. So most people during wintertime use up the vitamin D that's been stored up. So everyone needs to be aware that during wintertime, they are more likely to become vitamin D deficient. So this means we need to be aware of the diet that we're having and making sure it's rich in vitamin D food. So this can be certain foods like egg yolks and oily fish such as salmon, and certain foods which are fortified with vitamin D. So this means in the process of making them, they add vitamin D in them, and this can be things like dairy products or breakfast cereal. And of course, keeping up with your daily vitamins or just taking a vitamin D supplement is also going to increase your levels of vitamin D. I hope from this video you've been able to understand how important vitamin D is for our health and how we process it and how we can make sure that we're keeping up with the levels that's needed to keep us well and healthy. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and join me next week as I continue talking about other vitamins. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this, and I will see you next time.